we better get ready to go. It is the red and black car of Mark Farmer that starts on pole position. It's sort of red and white and gold, isn't it? The rolled over hoop for Stuart Calder that lines up alongside. Row 2 of the grid, it's silver and day-glow orange for JJ Moggelhuis, who was 4th in the championship coming into this weekend, alongside number 4 Anthony Barnes, who has been a champion in the past and has had 2 wins so far this season. He's in the red and the day-glow car on row number 2. So we're about to get the Goodstone Supplies Sevens Racing Championship underway. All of the cars running control Toyo tyre. The first batch of cars will go. The second batch of cars for their rolling start will be about 20 seconds later on that they will get going. But we're about to get things underway for the first time in the Sevens Racing Series at Silverstone this weekend for round 7 of the 2025 Championship. Mark Farmer and Stuart Calder on pole position. Lights on the gantry, 25 minutes on the clock. Lights go out and they'll charge their way up towards Copse Corner for the first time. And who's going to get their nose ahead? It's going to be Mark Farmer that will lead the charge from Stuart Calder. They'll all be just treading gingerly in what are darkening skies here at Silverstone. The weather is due to be changeable this afternoon, but they're all in the first of the 420 pack, safely through Copse Corner for the first time. And hitting the front by the look of things is Mark Stansfield, who started 6th on the grid, picks up the early lead in the race as they head down towards Maggots and Beckett's. There's already a little bit of contact and some bodywork flying in the background, but everybody just continues with Mark Stansfield leading the pack. But of course, in typical Caterham fashion, he will be punching the hole in the air for everybody else, and by the time they get down towards Stowe, I would very much doubt he'll still be in the lead. Here he goes. He's got Anthony Barnes jinking out from behind him. To the left-hand side of the circuit, is Anthony Barnes going to pick up the lead of the race as they head towards Stowe for the first time? Yes, he does. Mark Stansfield drops into second with Stuart Calder there in third. We're about to get the 310Rs and the 270Rs underway. They head off, and it is Russ Ollivant and Caroline Everett that are fighting for the lead of the 310Rs. Russ Ollivant in the metallic blue car with a white stripe down the centre of it. Looks as though he has got just about his nose ahead as they go in towards Copse Corner. But again, in typical Caterham fashion, leading the race is not where you want to be. Certainly on the final lap, you just need to be in the lead pack for the first 20 minutes or so, and then you can work it out from there. It's Russ Ollivant that leads the 310Rs from Caroline Everett, and that's Paul Sethi that's sitting there in third position. And fourth looks as though it's Stuart Bell who's there in fourth place, man who's had a win earlier on this season. We'll try and work out who is leading the 270Rs a little bit later on. We might have to wait until a bit later on to pick that one up, but they charge their way down the Hanger Straight for the first time, and Caroline Everett looking to see whether she can make a move on Russ Ollivant. She's not going to do it this time as they head up towards Stowe Corner. And trying all the way around the outside is Tim Steele there to pick up third place, but couldn't quite manage it over the Dayglow green and white car of Paul Sethi. So it's still that Dayglow car of Paul that is third in that section. For the 420Rs, sorry, they're about to conclude their first lap of the race. It's Anthony Barnes that still has the lead of the race. Stuart Calder is under pressure for position from JJ Moggelhuis, the Portuguese driver who sits behind. Seen a lot of JJ racing in things like Renault European Championships. He's also done, I think, Seat Cupra Cup in Germany as well in the past. But for the lead of the race, is it Mark Farmer back to the lead? No, it's not. It's Mark Farmer up to second. Mark Stansfield sitting there in third place. And it's still Anthony Barnes that, in the Team Parker Racing prepared car, leads the pack at the moment. So the Dayglow orange rollover hoop leading the way. Mark Farmer, has done a good chunk of Caterham racing, both in the past, then moved on to racing GT cars before heading back to his roots again of racing Caterhams. He sits there in second place. Mark Stansfield in the number 19 car with the lime green rollover hoop in third. But if he looks in his mirrors, he's under pressure. And who's he under pressure from? The man who started from the outside of the front row of the grid, that being Stuart Calder. Again, as ever, they weave their way around, try and pick up a bit of a tow. The car ahead, of course, tries to break the tow, and Stuart Calder might be up to second, is he? Yeah, by the time he gets to Stowe Corner, he was fourth as they entered the Hanger Straight. He's up to second by the time they get to the end of it. For the 310Rs, it is Russ Ollivant that leads the way there from Caroline Everett. And as they come over the start-finish line, we'll try and work out who is leading the 270Rs, but they are a little bit further down through the order, of course, the lesser-powered 270R cars. Caroline Everett under pressure was Tim Steele in the silver and yellow car, trying to wiggle his way through and ahead. Stuart Bell is involved there as well at the wheel of the number 119 car. In fact, Stuart Bell, is he looking for third? Now he's going to drop down into fourth place. Paul Sethi is there in fifth, I think, at the moment. And sixth, we'll have to try and work out who that is there in sixth position. So they head onto the Hanger Straight. It's the number 30 car, which will be Fraser Riddington. Dayglow rollover hoop is the easy way to pick him out. You can see he jinks out from behind the slipstream to try and wiggle his way through, see if he can gain a place. And for the lead of the race, we're almost side by side now, Ross Ollivant and Caroline Everett, with Tim Steele seeing whether he might be able to thread the needle. Trying around the outside is Stuart Bell at the wheel of the white and black and Dayglow orange car. You can hear the squeal of the Toyo tyres, and they're 3 wide, and Stuart Bell might hit the front here. 3 wide going in towards the club chicane. Something's got to give. Caroline Everett doesn't want to give it up, but Stuart Bell's got the inside line for the first section. That's the outside line for the second section, but he does go through. Stuart Bell leads the way from Caroline Everett in second place. Fraser Riddington there in third. Ross Ollivant drops to fourth. Tim Steele is there in fifth place. And sixth, we'll try and work out when they get a little bit closer to me as to who that is there in sixth place. It might possibly be Michael Curley that's there in sixth position. So 20 minutes of the race still to go. The 310Rs in what are tricky conditions now by the look of things. See some spits of rain on that side of the circuit on the camera. It's starting to rain on my side of the circuit now as well. I think looking out of the commentary box windows, looks as though the rain might just be closing in a little bit, and that's going to make things tricky. Back to the overall front end of the race, and Anthony Barnes has just started to escape the grasp of those behind a little bit, so they now need to work together if they want to catch the race leader, because Anthony Barnes has pretty much almost broken the toe on those behind. He's not quite there as yet. We're side by side for second and third place as Mark Farmer is wheel to wheel with Mark Stansfield. Tiny amount of rain just falling on our parts of the circuit, but I think it's worse up at the top section of the circuit round through Stowe. You just see the conditions subtly deteriorating lap after lap after lap. Big squiggly moment for the race leader Anthony Barnes as he dived on the brakes going in towards club. Just gathered up the moment as the tail end started to just break away from him. So he still continues to lead the way. He was actually leading by a very un-Caterham-like 1.2 seconds, and there's contact further back, I'm afraid, and a couple of cars have come together. Barry Benham is one of those that has come together. I'm not sure whether it might be Matt Drew is the other one. Barry Benham with some frontal damage to his car, rear damage on the other car. I think they'll both get going, but both have been significantly delayed. Back towards the 310R, so Barry Benham is retiring. You can see the damage to the front wheel rim of his car. Back to the 310Rs, and it's still Stuart Bell that leads us as they head out of Chapel Curve and onto the Hanger Straight. Stuart Bell, as you can see, moving around, trying to break the toe on Caroline Everett, who thinks, OK, then I'm just going to go on my own now. I've got some momentum, try and ease my way through and past and back into the lead of the race. And in typical Caterham fashion, there's not a great deal Stuart Bell can do about it. He drops down into third position. And picking up the lead of the 310Rs now will be an entirely different car that's now gone through to pick up the lead of the 310Rs. So in towards the braking area for the club chicane. Caroline Everett second in 310Rs. And to the lead of 310Rs is that Craig Denman, I think, that might have gone to the lead of the 310Rs. Difficult to pick out the number on his car. So over the start-finish line for the Grand Prix circuit there we'll go. And it is, yeah, it's number 29, isn't it? It's Craig Denman that's picked up the lead of the 310Rs. Leading the 270s, you have to go a long way down in the order to pick up on who leads the 270s. And we'll come back to that in a moment, because the 420Rs for the overall lead of the race are again just threading their way through Maggotts and Beckett's and starting to work their way onto the Hanger Straight. Leading 270, I think the leading 270 is car number 56 at the end of that lap. And that being the case, that will be Dean Burden that's gone through to lead the 270s, but the 420s head up towards Stowe, with Mark Stanfield this time hitting the front. And Anthony Barnes, who a few laps ago was 1.2 seconds in the lead, is now down into second place. So they have worked together, Mark Stansfield and Mark Farmer, the two Marks, to catch the race leader. And now, of course, once you get into that slipstream, it's so much easier just to work your way through and pass. They are pretty powerful machines in terms of power to weight ratio, but there's no aerodynamic devices. It's all mechanical grip, and they're not the most aerodynamically efficient cars either. They make a nice big hole in the air, which means it creates a big slipstream effect. And as I mentioned earlier on, as long as you are in the lead pack with about 5 minutes to go, then you can decide as to when you want to make your move. And the one thing you probably don't want to do is be leading down the Wellington Straight on the final lap, because if you come out of the loop and on towards Aintree in the lead of the race, odds are you are going to be down into something like third or fourth if it's a tightly packed field by the time you get towards Brooklands, and then it gives you very little time to fight back. So a lot of it is about positioning yourself so that you're where you want to be as you head onto the final lap, and in particular as you head onto the final big long straight, the Wellington Straight, which is where this little squabble is working its way now. Again, you can see the spits of rain, so whilst the track is still dry, the Toyo tyres will be just feeling the effects of a little bit of moisture falling, as Mark Stansfield, followed by Anthony Barnes, JJ Margle-Heiss and then Mark Farmer. It's a quartet for the lead of the race, with 15.5 minutes just under to go, and they're about to work their way over the start-finish line and conclude lap number 4 this time through. For the 310s, still the fight goes on. Stuart Bell in the lead of the 310s at the moment. And the car that had been leading them, Craig Denman, now down into third by the look of things in the 310s at the wheel of that black and white and light blue machine, under pressure from Caroline Everett, and then the Dayglow green car of Paul Sethi. Are we going to have a change for the lead of the 310s? Ross Ollivant, I think, is the man who's going to take up the lead of the race again. Yep, so 310 lead goes the way of Ross Ollivant, who squeezes his way through on the approach up towards Abbey. Say, as soon as you get yourself into the lead of the race, then all you're doing is punching the hole in the air for everybody behind, and we are side by side through Village and up towards the loop as Caroline Everett looks to try and attack and squeeze away up the inside of Stuart Bell. She just about gets the job done. Stuart Bell then runs a little bit wide. That compromises his exit speed. He drops from second down into third place, but he's under pressure from Craig Denman. Then the car of Paul Sethi, and then Paul Sethi has got drawing up alongside him. That'll be Fraser Riddington, won't it, with the Dayglow yellow rollover hoop, who is looking for the inside line at Brooklands but cannot quite squeeze his way through. Paul Goldstein is starting to make some progress now as well in that familiar gold and black livery. All the way around the outside goes the number 150 car of Paul Goldstein, who has been hugely successful in various Caterham championships over the years, and is really having to roll his sleeves up and set about the task in hand, trying to draw himself alongside Tim Steele's car as they head over the start-finish line, but he can't quite get the job done. So the 310 leaders head up towards Copse, and it's going to be Ross Ollivant that leads that from Craig Denman in second place. Craig Denman, remember, the championship leader in 310s, has only had one race win so far this season, but it's been a consistent season from Craig Denman, who has only failed to finish outside of the top 5 on a couple of occasions. And 2 of those being the races at Donington Park for rounds 2 and round 3 of the championship. So starting to head on to the Wellington Straight, onto the Hanger Straight once more, come the 310Rs, with Ross Ollivant now the man who is punching the hole in the air for everybody that's queuing up behind. What is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a slight gap before we then see the next 3 cars, and another slight gap before the next 4, but it's almost 10 or 11 cars that are all in the lead squabble. Looks as though the conditions up at the top part of the circuit might just have improved in the last few laps or so. And are we going to be 3 wide again heading in towards the braking area for Club? It's going to be Craig Denman, I think, that's going to hit the front this time. Yep, so he nips up the inside of Ross Ollivant in towards the braking area for Club. Ollivant drops down into second place. Paul Sethi sitting there in third place. It's going to be Stuart Bell there in fourth. Paul Goldstein takes a long, wide sweep out of Club Corner to try and get some good momentum and see whether he can unpick Fraser Riddington on the run up towards Abbey, but it looks as though it is still going to be 5 for the lead, and then a very slight gap back to the yellow and polished aluminium car of Tim Steele. Onto the brakes, up towards Village. Ross Ollivant sends one up the inside of Craig Denman, but then of course he's on the outside line when you get up towards the braking area for the loop. So Craig Denman just ushers the car as far over as he dare. There was almost contact between himself and Ross Ollivant, but they just gave each other enough room, and they thread their way again onto the Wellington Straight, whilst the overall race leaders are 3 wide heading down in towards Club Corner. JJ Margle-Heiss, the meat in the sandwich, and it's Mark Stansfield that picks up the lead of the race. This is the race lead overall and the lead of the 420Rs. JJ Margle-Heiss trying to come back at him, the Portuguese driver. Can't quite make it stick there, and then Anthony Barnes gets a really good run coming onto the Lewis Hamilton Straight. It's Margle-Heiss, I think, that's going to pick up the lead of the race. No, Stansfield sweeps straight across the nose of him and is not going to let him through. And then, because JJ Margle-Heiss was briefly delayed by that, Mark Farmer is now making it 3 wide in towards the braking area for Village in the loop, and trying to join in on the mix behind them all is the car of Stuart Calder by the look of things. So it's 5 for the lead now in the 420Rs. So Mark Stansfield, Anthony Barnes, Mark Farmer, JJ Margle-Heiss, Stuart Calder are the top 5 overall in the race, and for the lead of the 420Rs as they work their way for what will be the 6th time onto the Wellington Straight with still over 10 minutes remaining in the race, so plenty of time still to try and work out where you want to be. And as I say, as long as you're in the main pack, that's the main thing. Stay in the main pack of cars. You will end up drifting past each other. You might be first one lap and fifth the next, but when you've been racing Caterhams for a period of time, you know that that's nothing to panic about. As long as you are in the tow of the front runners, you always stand a good opportunity of utilising that tow in the last few laps of the race, or if not, the very last lap of the race, or even down the very final straight of the race. So Stansfield leads as they come over the start-finish line up towards Copse Corner. The third place car, which is the Silver and Dayglow car of JJ Margle-Heiss, still sitting there in third position, but under pressure from the pole-sitting car of Mark Farmer, who is hoping that he might be able to grab a win here. We've not seen huge amounts of Mark in this championship this year, but he's always a front runner when he comes out. He's sitting there in fourth place at the moment with Margle-Heiss ahead of him. Back to the 310Rs, and it's Paul Sethi that's now picked up the lead of the 310Rs. And the car that had been leading it, Stuart Bell, has sort of fallen away a little bit, as has Fraser Riddington. So Paul Sethi leads that from Ross Ollivant. And Craig Denman, is he going to try at the inside of Ross Ollivant for second in 310s? No, can't quite make it stick there. So he's going to have to sit behind again and take a nice wide sweep in towards the loop, try and see if he can get the undercut on the way out. He's also punching a hole in the air for the cars that sit behind, which include Tim Steele, who is fourth of the 310s at the moment. Fifth of the 310s is Caroline Everett. Sixth of the 310s will be Stuart Bell, and then it's Fraser Riddington, I think, that is next up. As for the 270s again, it's difficult to try and pick out the 270s because, of course, they all look fairly similar. And I think leading the 270s down in 37th position at the moment of the 48 cars that we've got out there will be the leading 270 car, and that would be car number 21, which is Alex Coombs, who was on pole for 270s anyway, so he's managed to work his way back ahead of Dean Burden, who was the early leader in the 270s, I believe. So the 310s back over the start-finish line. Paul Sethi still just ahead. That's very close. Absolutely together, and Craig Denman has to run wide through Copse Corner as a result of having Tim Steele trying to squeeze up his inside going into the corner, so he just let the car drift wide and on the way out, and the squabbling now behind has just allowed the front two to break away a little bit. So Ross Ollivant and Paul Sethi just starting to break away in the lead of the 310s. For the 420s, they're just coming up towards the conclusion of yet another lap. And as they come over the start-finish line, there's 8 minutes to go, and it's Anthony Barnes that leads the race overall from Mark Farmer and Mark Stansfield, JJ Margle-Heiss, and then the number 82 car in the hands of Stuart Calder. That's the top 5 at this stage, and again, as ever, weaving around, trying to break the toe on the cars behind, but they're all there or thereabouts. Diogo Costa, I think, the number 223 car, completes the top 6 at this stage, his very light green car with the black flashes to it. No matter where you look, there are fights to be had. Mark Bennett involved there in a really good battle with, I think, JJ Margle-Heiss Jr., and they are fighting over what would be 10th and 11th places as they went through Copse Corner. But for Anthony Barnes, he's a driver that year after year after year cannot be ruled out. He had a poor finish at Oulton Park last time out, and that was his first non-score of the season. Other than that, he's been on the podium in every single race. 2 race wins, he's had a second, he's had a couple of thirds. He leads here at Silverstone in the first of the 2 races on the Grand Prix circuit, but it's not going to be easy whilst they are all still queued up behind him. Mark Stansfield in second place, JJ Margle-Heiss and Mark Farmer going wheel to wheel through Stowe Corner over third and fourth. Margle-Heiss just into third place at the moment, with Mark Farmer in fourth. Stuart Calder's there, and now that they are starting to slow each other up, look at the light green car in the background, car number 223, which is Diogo Costa. He is beginning to close in, and he is bringing with him, I think that's the number 50 car that sits behind, which will be Wes Payne, who has now set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 21.819. We've got problems, I'm afraid, up at Abbey. A couple of cars having come together, one of which is walking wounded and is trying to limp its way back towards the pit lane. I think that might be James McCulloch, possibly. And the other car, I think, is stricken in the gravel trap up there at Abbey. And that is a fast corner to be stuck in the gravel trap, so the driver would be well advised when there's a gap in the traffic to hop out, I would have thought. Also, now there's Mark Stansfield. Mark Stansfield was right on the run of tarmac coming out of Village. So is there a problem for Mark Stansfield? Try and have a quick look. There's another car limping its way round. Now, Mark Stansfield is still there. There's bits of bodywork flying off various either 270s or 310Rs, one of which is limping back to the pit lane with the nose cone all askew and may well be dropping a bit of coolant onto the circuit. And that might have been what put Mark Stansfield off onto the old run-off tarmac there, that slower car. But he does actually lead the race. So through they come this time, over the start-finish line. It's Mark Stansfield that leads the way from Anthony Barnes in second place. JJ Margleheis from Mark Farmer, Stuart Calder, and now Diego Costa has pretty much fully caught them as well. And as for the 310Rs, it is Ross Olivants that leads the way in 310s as they work their way round through Stowe Corner and start to head down through the Vale. Paul Sethi in the green car sitting there second of the 310s. Craig Denman third of the 310s, but he's got Stuart Bell right with him, then Tim Steele, followed by Paul Goldstein, and then it will be Fraser Riddington, the grey car with the Dayglow yellow rollover hoop. Caroline Everett will be next up after that. So this is a train of what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, is it, for the lead of 310s, with another 2 playing catch-up to try and make it the best part of nearly 10 cars fighting for the lead of the 310Rs. I did say it would be close, and as long as you're in the lead pack, and at the moment pretty much everybody is in that lead pack in 310s. Up towards the braking area for Village, so past the localised yellow flags because of that stricken car in the gravel trap at Abbey and Farm, through the loop, and this time it's Paul Sethi that runs a little bit wide coming out of the loop in the Dayglow green car. He sits second in the 310s at the moment, compromised his exit speed a little bit onto the Wellington straight, where we've still got a little bit of debris sitting in the middle of the circuit. As is tradition with a Caterham race, there's various wheel arches deposit themselves around the circuit, and as they turn their way through Brooklands and up towards the end of what for the 310Rs will be lap number 8 this time through. Car I think we still need to watch out for is the number 150 car of Paul Goldstein, who runs a little bit wide. Does Paul Goldstein coming out of Luffield. He's looking to try and get himself into position with 4 minutes to go. He is now behind the car of Caroline Everett, which has got a left front mudguard flapping away at this stage. So that puts him something like 7th or 8th in 310Rs at the moment. But you can just see how many cars are in that lead pack in 310Rs. And they are all trying to just make sure they position themselves where they need to be. So heading towards the final stages of this one, so the gloves aren't quite off as yet, but in a lap or two the gloves will be off, the jackets will be off as well, and they'll, like a couple of prize fighters, all be slugging it out as for who is going to claim the win. So on to the Hanger Straight. For the 310Rs, it's round 8 of their championship. For the 420s, it's round 7 of their championship. And it is still Ross Olivant that leads the 310s at the moment. Paul Sethi jinks out from behind him as they head up towards Stowe Corner. But he's not going to do anything other than just sit behind the race leader as they head round through Stowe. Craig Denman is still third of the 310Rs. Back to the 420s and the overall race lead. It's still Anthony Barnes that leads the way from Mark Stansfield as they make their way out of Chapel Curve and onto the Hanger Straight on lap number 10 at this time through. They'll be onto their final lap of the race next time. But it's Barnes that leads, Stanfield second, Mark Farmer there in third place, but they've got now a little bit of traffic coming up before too much longer. JJ Margleheis sits there in fourth place, and we're side by side for the lead of the race. Mark Stansfield on the inside line through Stowe Corner. Anthony Barnes braving it out around the outside line at Stowe, which gives him the inside line when they get down in towards the braking area for Club. And Anthony Barnes, I think, still hangs on to the lead of the race despite the very, very best efforts of Mark Farmer, who is now in that unenviable position that he's got to attack and defend at the same time again, because he's now got Mark Farmer right behind him and the fourth place car in the hands of JJ Margleheis. Traffic up the road to deal with as well, and that is one of the 270Rs I think that they're looking to try and work their way through and past. And now it all depends where they meet that traffic really as well, and are they able to squeeze their way through without too much of a problem. Is that David Tong's car? Can't quite tell from there. I don't think it is, because it looks more black than green. But hopefully our fantastic Silverstone marshals will wave the blue flags, and for Anthony Barnes the one positive thing is he's going to meet that traffic on the Wellington Straight, so it shouldn't compromise his run through the corners at all. So the marshals will wave their blue flags, the more powerful 420Rs will ease their way past, and as they head up towards Brooklands this time through, this is going to be lap number 10 completed for the front runners, and they'll be heading on to their final lap of the race. Anthony Barnes, who so far this year has claimed 2 wins, but that was a long time ago now. That was in March. The opening weekend of racing, the 29th and 30th of March at Donington Park. He won the first 2 races of the 2025 Championship season. And yes, he's been on the podium again at Donington and at Brands Hatch and at Alton Park, but he's not been on the top step of that podium. There's a bit of contact there, was there? JJ Margelheis has picked up some bodywork somewhere. Now that is not his front wing, that is somebody else's front wing that's got itself dragging along, and that was the contact I think that he made with Mark Farmer. It's peeled the rear wing off Mark Farmer's car and deposited it under the front suspension of JJ Margelheis, who can't seem to get rid of it at the moment, so that will be giving him a few little handling problems and may well have undone what he was hoping to do on this final lap of the race. Traffic to deal with as well as they ease their way through and past Alex Coombs' car, who was on pole position in the 270s, and as they head up towards the Hangar Straight, it's still Anthony Barnes that leads the way. Mark Stansfield though does look as though he wants the lead of the race. At the end of the Hangar Straight he jinks up the inside at Stowe. Now is that the right move? Because of course if he leads then he'll be leading onto the Wellington Straight, which means that everybody else can just slipstream their way by, but if they do he could then get the run to the flag. That's what he might be thinking at this stage. Onto the brakes, up towards Club Corner. Mark Stansfield leads, Anthony Barnes in second place. Mark Farmer, minus the right wheel arch of his car, sits there in third position, and fourth place is JJ Margelheis, who is somewhat fallen away now, so it's really just these top 3 fighting away for the overall race win, I would suspect, as they head along the Hamilton Straight and up towards Abiam Farm, where again wheel to wheel for the lead of the race as Anthony Barnes puts himself back into the lead. Can he hang on to it as they head in towards the braking area for Village? No, Mark Stansfield is going to pick up the lead of the race. I'm not sure Anthony Barnes wanted it there. I think he's going to wait until the Wellington Straight for the final attack for the lead of the race. So through the loop, get a good exit coming out of the loop, pick up the tow and the slipstream from the race leader as you head onto the Wellington Straight. That's what Anthony Barnes will be thinking at this stage. Mark Stansfield trying to hang on to the lead of the race, moves all the way over to cover off the move from Anthony Barnes, who has to weave his way through and past the debris that's deposited on the circuit there, but the slipstream has worked and Anthony Barnes is going to pick up the lead of the race. So the only hope now for Mark Stansfield is to try and do it on the sprint to the line in the 420Rs. So Anthony Barnes leads the way, looking for win number 3 of the championship season. Mark Stansfield took a win earlier on this season at Alton Park, and as they head out of Luffield for the final time, the charge to the line might tell it, but I think Anthony Barnes has just done enough to hang on to the lead of the race, and as he comes over the start-finish line, he takes the checkered flag and wins for the 420Rs, round 7 of the Toyo Tyres Sevens Racing Series, supported by Goodstone Supplies here this weekend. Mark Stansfield in second, Mark Farmer in third, with JJ Margelheis in fourth, Stuart Calder fifth, and sixth will be the number 50 car in the hands of Wes Payne for the 310Rs. They're just working their way onto the Hangar Straight for the final time, and it is Russ Olivant that leads the 310Rs from Stuart Bell in second place, but Stuart Bell is under attack from Paul Sethi, who is trying to weave his way through. Fraser Riddington is under attack from Craig Denman, who I think is going to nip up the inside and take fourth in the 310s. Yes, he does, as they head in towards Stowe Corner. So Riddington is now down into 5th in the 310s, but still has half a lap to try and re-attack. Paul Goldstein is 6th, I think, in the 310s at the wheel of the number 150 car. And he's involved in a great battle with both Craig Denman and Fraser Riddington. They're 3 wide through club. Something's got to give. Fraser Riddington runs a little bit wide, but they all avoid bumping into each other. So there's less than half a lap to go, and they've split up into 2 pairs of 3 at the moment. 3 for the lead of the race and 3 fighting for 4th, 5th and 6th. The 3 fighting for the lead in the 310s, Russ Olivant, Stuart Bell and Paul Sethi, as they head onto the brakes and up towards Village for the final time. Work your way through the tight right-hander, up towards the even tighter left-hander, but focus on the exit as you come out of the loop onto the Wellington Straight, and that is a good exit from Russ Olivant. Slightly sideways was Stuart Bell, which will have scrubbed a little bit of speed from the second place car in 310s. Paul Goldstein now is looking to try and get himself ahead of Paul Sethi and pick up a podium spot, and he has done in 310s. He's caught the Dayglow green car on the run down the Wellington Straight. Paul Sethi is trying to re-attack up towards Brooklands, but I think is too far away. So it's now just 2 for the lead in 310Rs, and as they work their way up towards the final corner and out of it, it looks as though it's going to be Russ Olivant that will claim the win. It looks as though it's Stuart Bell in second. Who's going to finish in third? Here they come. It's going to be Russ Olivant that comes through to claim the win. Only his second win of the championship season. We haven't seen much of him other than at Alton Park, but he did appear at Alton, was more than competitive. Stuart Bell comes through to finish second of the 310Rs, and Paul Goldstein, by half a Caterham nose, finishes third in the 310Rs. Fantastic fight for all of those, and they were fighting for the race win in reality in their category, but that was actually 22nd, 23rd and 24th overall. Just to confirm the winner of the 270Rs, we didn't see a huge amount of him, but it was the number 21 car of Alex Coombs that claimed the win, I think, in the 270s, but I'm having to scroll through 48 cars and try and pick out who is the class leader in 270s, and I think that's who it is, finishing in 34th place overall. Wow, it was always going to be frantic with 48 cars and 48 Caterhams on the grid, but what a race that was. Let me guide you through some of the results. I'm not going to go through all 48, or we'll be here for all afternoon. It is Anthony Barnes that claims the win, his third win of the season, with Mark Stansfield in second place and Mark Farmer in third. The top three cars covered by just over half a second in the end. JJ Margleheis was fourth, ahead of Stuart Calder, who was fifth place. Wes Payne was sixth. Diogo Costa was seventh. Jamie Elwood, Championship leader, was 8th. 9th place was the number 23 car that finished in 9th position, which was Greensall, and it was Bennett that completed the top 10. JJ Margleheis Jr. was just outside of the top 10, finishing in 11th position, and you can see the rest of the cars that finished inside the top 20. But when we get to the next page, in 22nd position, Russ Ollivant was the winner of the 310R race from Stuart Bell, and Paul Goldstein, who finished in 24th, finishing as the podium, last person on the podium in the 310Rs. If we look for the winner of the 270Rs, then look down in 34th position. That's where you can see Alex Coombs. He was the winner of the 270Rs, and he was also the first car that was just off the lead lap. And there you can see the rest of the finishers in what was a 48 car field for the Macmillan Racing Sevens Racing Series, supported by Goodstone Supplies. We'll be back with another race for them later on today, so please join us for that one. They are timetabled to be back out on circuit around about 5:20 this afternoon. So thanks for joining us for the first race of the day here at Silverstone. Make sure you join us for race number 2. It will be equally as exciting. So until later on today, we'll say goodbye.